Okay, so we have our quilt top all stenciled, and I have the hoop put on. And this is the block we're going to be working in for now. When you use a hoop, you work in small patches, and we start close to the middle and work our way out so that it alleviates any puckering that might occur in the process. Okay, so we're going to do some hand quilting today. And some things, sorry, my camera's needing adjusted. Some things that I was going to show you that you need are first of all, some thread. This is a bold thread. I have thread that's not bold. It's just regular hand quilting thread. I don't know if you can read that. It says hand quilting on it. This one says bold hand quilting. And this one, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but it's just a tad thinner than the bold quilting thread. It's kind of hard to see the thread on there. I've been using the bold hand quilting thread because I like it. It stands out a little bit more. Sometimes it's a little harder to work with because it wants to knot up more, but it'll pop out easy and it doesn't break as easy. And I like these. These are my little needle grabbers, because if you get in a space on your quilt, say the very corner where there's 4 points of material that meet, so there's more material there, sometimes your needle will get stuck and it's kind of hard to pull it through. So if you just wrap this around your needle and grab it, it makes it a lot easier to pull out of the material. So I would get one of those to start. Choose your color. I picked blue because I mostly have blue in the quilt. Plus I have a blue back, so it's not going to show as much on the back. Plus my back is printed, so it doesn't really matter. But if you want it to stand out more on the back, use a color that'll stand out more. Like I could have used white or even yellow, because there's yellow in this. So if you want a color to stand out, pick one that stands out. I sometimes alternate between a couple colors. The last quilt I made, I used at least 4 colors of thread on it. It makes it a little bit confusing, and you have to remember what as you go along, if you have it in a frame, what you quilted which color with. So you have to make sure you remember what you're doing there. So also you want to get a thimble. Now they make a lot of different types of thimbles. I have a couple types here. This is a clover leather thimble, and that's the kind that I've been using. I tried using the metal thimbles. I have a hard time with them. I tried using one of these. It's okay, but it's still not my favorite. The leather, as you can see, I've worn a couple out. The metal part popped out of this one, so I got myself another one. But as you use it, it'll stretch around the metal and then it'll pop out. But there's plastic and there's metal. My grandmother used to use one of these, and she would wear holes through the top. Now I've had a hard time trying to use one of those, so I just always use the leather. And I didn't have much success with either. I wasn't crazy about these, but it's up to you. It's whatever you can, whatever you're comfortable with and that you like. And you'll need a pack of needles because sometimes you break the needles when you're using them. If you are not using the rocker motion, and you're getting into like tight materials, sometimes you can break a needle. And I broke one the other day. But I use the quilting betweens. There's different sizes in here so that you can use for whatever size you like. I don't like the real short needles. I find them hard to um, take a lot of stitches with. So I usually use a longer needle, one of the longer ones, which is I think a 7. So it's up to you too with that. So the one I have now is about a 7. But also the bigger the needle, the bigger the eye, so it's easier to thread. Whereas this thick quilting thread, the bold, is harder to thread in some of these little needles. So if you have a little threader helper, I don't know if you know what that is. I don't have one right now. I ordered another one because I broke one. But I don't always use them, but sometimes I use them in the smaller needles because it's easier to thread them. Because the eyes are a little bit smaller on them. But if you want to use the regular quilting thread, it'll go through the smaller needles. The bigger threads doesn't always go through the smaller needles correctly, so you have to use a little bit bigger needle. And you'll need a pair of little snippers, scissors to snip your thread off when you're quilting. I do have a quilting box that I keep my stuff in handy, and I also keep my it's full of my other junk, but I keep my pin box close by because when you're taking out your pins, you'll need some place to put them. So I keep it close by here to throw my pins in when I'm done. So let's get started here. I was going to take my needle and thread it, if I can get it threaded, because this bold thread is, you can use white thread, like I might use white thread in some of this too, because in the little blue patches it would stand out a little bit more. So I also have my white thread here. I only had the gray thread there for an example. So might need another pair of glasses. Sometimes I use a second pair of glasses to thread my needles because my needle is not wanting to thread here. So what you do is you take your, man, I think I might need a different needle here. Let's see. Because I like my bold thread, and if the thread is fraying on the end, you're gonna have to snip it off, or it doesn't want to go through the eye of the needle. I wish I had my needle threader here because I didn't get it yet. And this is not wanting to thread. So I will use another thread just to show you. My needle does not want to thread here. So let me show you. Okay, so I snipped off about, I don't know if you can see it. Boy, there it is. I snipped off about that much thread, say an arm's length. I take off about an arm's length to start with, And then if it's a regular quilting thread, not the bold, I'll double knot it. If it's a bold thread, I only single knot it. So I wrap it around twice and make a knot so that it stays in place. Now, put my thimble on my finger. You always put it on your middle finger, and make sure you just have a single layer of thread, and you have the other piece, hanging down a little bit above the end of the knotted piece. Okay. Camera adjusted. So what you want to do is make sure you don't have any of this extra material underneath the quilt while you're quilting, because you can catch it in your needle. I have done that. So make sure it's pulled out from underneath your quilt, your hoop. And then what we're going to do is stitch in the ditch. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm already at 11 minutes. My goodness. Okay, let's stop this video, and then I'll come back and start a new one because they take so long to download. So, we're going to show you how to do the stitching here in a second.